I've not used this before, so I'm just trying it out.
Hey man, it's been too long since we sat down and that just feels wrong. Allow me to give my head a shake, open my eyes and fix a mistake. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit a rewind. You wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly. Hey buddy, no strangers here. These times I hold them dear. My door's open, so come on in. This was great, let's do it again. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit rewind. You wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly. Do you wanna come over? Just like the old times, we'll hit pause and then hit rewind. You wanna come over? Just like the old days, and we'll watch the time just fly.
Get those tinfoil hats ready because we are talking aliens again, this time more in line with abductions. We had such a blast doing just UFOs in general last week with Hans Chow, who mysteriously isn't here with us today, even though he's advertised as one of our... I'm almost certain last week we said it was the Hans show, and now the Hans doesn't show.
Yeah.
Conspiracy?
Well,
Weird.
it's either
Abductions?
aliens or government, but one of those two I think for it.
Yeah, definitely. Retro Tickets jumped in with a g'day again. G'day, buddy.
Nate.
Welcome back to the party. GeForce Racing 20 and Steven's back. Hey all, how are ya, matey? Thanks for jumping back over here while we shoot the shh. The truth is out there.
Shoot
Make
the
sure you- And make sure you put your little twin foil hats on.
That's great. Perfect. I love it. So, Gaz, did you actually get to the making any slides, or?
I did. I'm gonna have to present them again.
Yeah. That's what I would have put money on the fact that you didn't. Hello again, Skyfall. Thanks, buddy.
You know when,
when
your parents come and watch you in a school play and you're like a reindeer and you're standing there and you're like, oh, you did a great job. And they're so proud of you. That's how I feel whenever you guys make slides. I'm like, oh, look at them go. Look at them do their slides.
Yeah, we try. I just noticed, Adam. You're wearing the same shirt that your avatar has.
Intentionally.
That's
This
brilliant.
is my clubhouse shirt.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, Pericles is also back here. Here we go again. My. Let me know when you're ready, Gaz. When you want to, you do what you got to do, and then we'll get into.
Am I just said sure, right? And that's it, right?
Yeah. So I can see all of the images.
How do I select just one?
Well, if you hit just one, and it'll see what happens.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Right. Hold on. Let me do it. Let me do it. Yeah.
It's the government trying to stop you from letting the truth come out there. Let the truth be known.
Yeah, if this stream gets shut down halfway through, you guys know why.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Do you see that?
No, because now you have to share the different screen that it's on.
Oh, that's right. Bang. Let me do that again. Welcome to technology.
Right. Now,
Screen.
Gaz, have you ever been to Roswell?
I have not.
Is that where Area 51 is?
Well, it's in New Mexico. Well, Roswell's in New Mexico. Area 51 is in Nevada.
Yeah, like by Reno.
Okay. Right. Well, we're about to learn some stuff today then. My geography is not my strong point.
It was amazing that Area 51 was like this mythical, like whispered about thing. They don't know if it existed or not. And then it was like Google Maps came out and you could just Google Maps the facility.
I want some tenders.
Yeah, Ooh, love meat
Uh-oh.
tender.
You just froze. Is he there?
Who? Zazel?
Yeah.
He's looking stoic.
Yes, he is. He wants some tenders.
Remember the launch of the clubhouse where
Oh yeah.
you just took off and you were all alone.
Yeah. The look of fear in my face is like, oh, I'm here by myself. What do I do? What do I do?
Now what do I do?
Just give him a second.
Yeah, he'll be
They
fine.
took me out. They took me out.
It was a Friday night.
All right. Let me know when you're all set. Can you see
All
that
right,
one?
I'll bring up the first. Yep. Oh, here we go.
All right, here we go. And feel free to chime in whenever you guys want to. This isn't
Yep.
just
Thanks, buddy.
I've prepared some slide. I know some stuff. I tried to get into documentary watching today, just wasn't having it, so that's not happening today. All right, so then 1947, no 46, yeah 47 is when this happened. As you can see here, they announced it in their newspaper. RAAF captures a flying saucer on a ranch in Roswell region. Interesting enough.
Front page news.
Yeah, here's another little article. Flying disc. Turns out to be a weather balloon. This is when they were trying to debunk it afterwards. This is the crash site, which we can't see. Let me make that bigger.
Whoa.
Oh, look at that technology! Whoa, we're going in.
No, between its finest points.
We're
There we go.
landing.
So
We
the little
landed.
spot, the little green spot, is where the supposed flying disc or or hubcap landed.
A weather balloon.
This here is Jesse Marcel. I believe he was a major. I am not sure. Displaying in color. I found this one. I had a black and white originally in color. Displaying some of the pieces. Now, there's an interesting little fact behind this picture here, or the pictures I'm going to show, and that he's showing what was supposed to be the debris found of this flying saucer. And this is
Right.
where they get into debunking. Well, this is actually parts of a weather balloon. This is literally a weather balloon that he's showing.
Is
Okay?
it though?
No. And according to his family, according to his son, he knew that it was, and he was just doing what he was told by his commanding officer. to
Yes.
display this
Gotcha.
stuff. Okay. Here is another image. This is in the black. This is obviously black and white, just a different angle of all the parts of all the stuff that there. And this is clearly lightweight material that they use for weather balloons. Now,
Yeah.
and you got another picture. I'll zoom in for you guys.
We'll love it. I
Thanks,
love
buddy.
the ad zoom.
Ooh, Gazz
This is
zoom.
dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the part now. What he says he found there, which he actually had, was something. This is a digitally remastered photo. That image. They actually, he and his family actually made some of that out of wood to kind of show you the actual size of it. And this is what he says that he found in the wreckage. This strange little crossbeam part with all these strange little symbols on there and stuff. So this
right.
also came out. This also came out like in the 80s. So I don't know if he was actually alive, if it was his son that brought it out. But this is what they were talking about as what they found in the wreckage. And there was a second crash site supposedly they found after it supposedly had the bodies. Three bodies
Right.
in drivers, which we get the famous alien autopsy from, which was actually proven to be fake.
This guy right here.
Mm.
Right there.
Oh, watch out behind you.
It's Han
So here I
Chow.
have here I have, this is the rancher on the ranch, the property that the disc came down on, and obviously after the government started to debunk it and say it was a weather balloon, regretted even telling anybody that it happened.
Right.
Mm.
Right. I'm just flying through these so we can talk. Now, Roswell, New Mexico, has totally embraced the alien, the flying saucer phenomenon.
Of
Whereas you
course.
see here, there's a flying saucer on there with some cows and one being abducted.
That's great.
So they have a museum or invasion station. I think it's a gas
That's
station.
cool.
Yeah, and this is gonna blow you away. Is a Mickey D's that looks like flying.
That's
They got
incredible.
flying saucers, Maccas.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if the Big Mac is actually called like the big UFO or
Right.
whatnot. That'd be hilarious.
The weather balloon.
Yeah, well, the weather balloon, the weather balloon shake. So here's a diorama of the crash site. And
Is it to
supposedly
scale?
it's- Well, maybe, but no, sorry, it's in their museum. This is what apparently it looked like in the New Mexico desert. There's another shot of it here, crack in it. I don't know how.
Mm.
And this is an actual picture of when they were there. You know, here's I believe the supposedly the disc is under here.
Right.
And then yeah, I just went forward a couple. Now, this is where the tinfoil hat comes on, because after this moment here in 1947, we get this crash disc. They supposedly moved it to Area 51. Some say they moved it to Ohio. This is an Air Force base in Ohio or military base in Ohio.
Right.
Supposedly they moved it. Area 51 was supposed to be like some theories say that it's the false front. It's not really there, even though it's the most secretive base or whatnot. So after this, we see a jump in our technology, right? Like by large leaps. We go to the moon in 1969. So not even 20 years after this, we're on the moon, right? We sent people to space.
Yep.
We're flying sophisticated jets. This is the famous SR-71 Blackbird that started the first. I believe the flight was either 1961 or 62, which means it developed it through the 50s, right?
Yeah.
In the technology, and 10 years prior to this, we were still flying prop planes.
Right.
Think about that for a second. Just about that for a second, right? And I mean, we had the Super Saber. Was it the F-87? Correct me if I'm wrong. Saber. Is it that big? It's got the big hole in the front.
Yeah.
Intake,
Yeah.
right. So we're flying around in these things, and then not 10 years later, we're designing this and flying this. You know, and
It looks remarkable, though. Yeah.
It does look remarkable, doesn't it?
Look, it's full of X-Men.
Sexy. Yeah.
Things that make you go,
I mean, think about this for a second. Like the NASA project. You know, they started 10 years, early 60s. They decided to go to the moon, right? This when JFK said we're going to the moon. So prior to that, they were just trying to break the sound barrier, right? And flying small single engine jets at like Mach 1, 2, and bam, you know, 1962, we got this coming off the runway. And then
GeForce Racing 20 is saying that Bob Laser, which is a great name if you're going to be reverse engineering anything to do with UFOs, worked as a physicist in Los Alamos National Laboratory, reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology at a site called S4 near Area 51. So I think there is.
This is what a telephone looked like prior to 1946.
Right.
Good old rotary phone.
Right. And now we have these in about 60 years plus. And we've been having cell phones like this since what? Late 80s? Going into the 90s? Really? Cell phones? And I mean this phone right here can power the entire NASA program in the 60s. All the missions in the 60s and 70s from this little piece of technology in my hand. Prior to this crash, this is what our phone looked like, right?
Yeah.
Right, finger holes and everything.
This is what a mainframe computer looked like in the 1940s, right? And again,
wow,
we got this.
Yes,
we got this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that us as human beings can engineer things like this and that we're not smart enough, but I just think that technology leap from that point to where we are now is pretty huge.
Would you
especially
go ahead,
Just
Zazel.
Go ahead, Zazel.
Well, I'm just going to say, you think about what level of technology humanity had for a long time before current technology. It was like decades, centuries, millennia of very little technology, if anything, and then to go in a very short amount of time to creating these things, to perfecting these things. I think what was the biggest thing before that? The wheel.
Yeah, the telephone. The telephone was the late 1800s when that was created, and we were using it. Started mass using it in like the 30s and the 40s,
Right.
20s, 30s, and 40s, and then by 1980, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And that's not even 40 years later, which I just think is kind of odd. So again, with the same thing with computer technology, I mean, we've jumped leaps and bounds from this. This is the 40s.
Yeah. Would
We're
you say
going
in the last 10 to 15 years, not that we've slowed down, but we've seen a bit of a lull? Like, so like, you know, the iPhone 16, yeah, it's better than the iPhone 1, but it's still a version of that iPhone. And that like, right? Like it's almost like we've reached kind of a maximum development of kind of where we're at.
I don't think.
How are you, heroic nonsense?
I think they've gotten people in there that have just said, you know what, we better slow down a little because people are going to catch on.
Maybe, or they've reversed engineered as much technology as they were able to gather. So they've gathered it to a point.
I was going to say the military are playing around with sonic weapons and heat weapons. So they've created a heat ray, the focused heat on something to take out targets. You know, that shit's right out of War of the Worlds, right?
Maybe War of the Worlds was a testing the waters on humanity with throwing these out there as possibilities for the future.
My last image is just this. It's just, there it is. They're there. We know they're there. Everybody knows they're there. And we just have to come to terms with it, right? Come to terms with it. And this is actually a road that I believe leads to Area 51. Some, believers put that sign there to make it look like that. But anyway, nonetheless, that's my display. That's my stuff. So
I love it.
I just went through it, but I'm just saying there's a lot to be discussed about that. And what I was saying is about when they had the wreckage with the weather balloon all spread out and stuff. Originally, they had the actual parts. Well, then his I forget his commanding officer's name. I had it in my mind earlier. Told them to display the weather balloon bits on there. Because originally, they had said we found the down saucer, and then they changed their story. They changed their story, and then but see this is where it gets kind of messed up. Is I was watching a little bit of a documentary today put on by one of the guys from Ancient Aliens. Right. You're familiar with that show? And
yeah.
He was talking to the grandson of Jesse Marcel, who is the guy in the photos. I'll pull it up. I'll pull his name up. Hold on a second. Let me go back. This gentleman.
So what would be the purpose of switching out for weather balloon parts, though?
Well,
why would they do that?
It's just to corroborate.
Yeah, just to disprove it. So I'm saying, like, well, these are what we found, so it's technically a weather balloon, right?
Oh, I feel you. Right.
I believe in the 90s, or was it the early 2000s? I think it was the 90s, because I think President Bill Clinton kind of had some people look into it, and they came out and they said that they were not crash test dummies. They were like crash test dummies testing parachutes, and that explains why they had the bodies. And I mean, like,
right.
All right, it was a super secretive project. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying me, but most of the people in the community were like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would it be crash test dummies when you said it was a weather balloon, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But he was told, according to his grandson, he was told that he was to display this stuff in front of everybody and say this is what it was. And he knew he knew that it wasn't real. He was just following his orders, and he had the actual stuff at his house, or apparently at his house, which doesn't also make sense to me because why would they have if it's actual alien technology? I wouldn't say technology. Who knows exactly what it was, but materials. Because the metal wouldn't be anything earthly made, right? It would be something from another. So it would be very valuable to anybody.
But do you
because it's
think
not-
do you think there's other elements out there? Or do you think that if another civilization exists somewhere in the universe, their periodic table wouldn't look just like ours?
I wouldn't. I mean, according to like the scientists and astronomers and stuff, that the universe is made up of basic elements, but how those elements combine, I think, because I mean, you're talking to we're here carbon-based
Right.
creatures, right? That's what we are. I mean, who's to say that in another planet they couldn't be something else that made out of something completely different, right? And just the way they're stuffed together. I mean, if you take these materials to make metal in space, you'd make it 100 times stronger than it is on Earth because you wouldn't have any air in it.
Right.
Right.
And that would complete. I mean, if you didn't know that, and if we didn't know that, and that came to us, and we're looking at a steel plate, and that's completely harder. A bullet can't go through it because it's very strong. We would think it's an alien technology because we just can't define it. It doesn't make sense to us logically.
Did you get into all this? Like, was your curiosity piqued in this in like the early to mid 90s, Gaz? I feel like there was a boom in this Roswell story in that early 92, 93 era.
I think as a kid I was fascinated by it because I'd seen movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Hangar 18. My stepfather and his father used to watch that movie like whenever it came on, so I was just intrigued by it. So I think the aliens have been kind of like my thing since I was a kid.
Yep.
I did get wrapped up into it, especially when the X-Files came out. Started like reuniting the flame. Like a lot of people were into it.
Yeah, X-Files really opened doors, right? So like X-Files was 93 when that came out.
Yeah.
And then in 95, the Alien Autopsy video came out.
Jonathan Frakes, isn't it?
Jonathan Frakes hosted it, but it was at a time which I think it was a better time. I'm feeling old now, but where we were synchronized by when things were broadcast. Like if you missed Saturday morning cartoons, you missed them forever. You'd never see that episode.
Yeah.
And so when Fox broadcast the Alien Abduction, I remember all my buddies were like, "Yeah, we're going to go home to watch this tonight." And you watch it. And you were like, "What are we watching? Like, what is this?" You're like, "This is." And Fox aired it 2 other times. It was like they kept their ratings kept going up. There was this like hunger for, and I don't think it's a hunger for like prove to me aliens are real. I think it's a hunger for like tell me the truth. We have this desire as people just know the truth, and I think it goes to like we just don't trust our government. Like there's clearly these secrets there. Like just let us know. And we thought we were finding something else out. Like I remember watching the first time I watched it, being like, "Oh, so this is it. It's proof. I see it. This is it. We're in."
Yeah, I definitely believed it. Yeah, I thought it was real. I thought even today, knowing that it was fabricated, if it was fabricated, but knowing it was fabricated, it still looks great.
So the story is that it's the guys who made it say it was fabricated, but they say they recreated a video that they saw.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the story after it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
because it was supposedly a CIA tape. Apparently, that's what it was.
Right.
I remember when I first watched it, I got together with my X-Files buddies because we all were like all super stuff, and I started watching it. I'm one of those, like I believe in extraterrestrial life. I believe in that. I think it's real, but I'm like a skeptic at the same time. Like I don't want to say that I'm not easily fooled, but I'm just like I look at things with like, just that make me believe it. And when I watch that, I'm like, doesn't look real. It doesn't look real. And then the story came out, well, it's a reenactment of the actual video. Then I'm like, well, then show me the actual video. Don't show me this fake crap.
I thought it did look real. I thought it did look. I was convinced.
I was so hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah,
Like I was so convinced by it when I watched the first time. When it came back on, I was like, Dad, you need to watch this. He's like, I'm not watching this alien nonsense. I'm like, you just sit down. You don't believe.
But no, I just watched it. I watched it and like, yeah, my friend, one of my friends was like, totally thought it was real. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, this. I mean, we've seen stuff on the X-Files that look more real than this. That's what I was saying.
Well, the X-Files.
Come on.
A year later, the X-Files had an episode about an alien autopsy video, and Mulder says this one looks worse than that one they aired on Fox.
Yeah, it was weird, but like again, that's all from this, and I think that, like I said, the technology jump that we've seen in the last like 50 years, you know, since that 50, 60 years since that, it's just been major, like a major jump. Yeah, that does not look real.
It's real to me.
It's real.
How does that not look real? I think it still looks great.
Yeah.
So when they showed this,
the little touch of it having a wounded leg to start was what sold me. I was like, look at him, hurt in the crash.
So they also, I think Marcel's also said in this image here, I'll bring up the other one, the actual wreckage part here. He said that this I believe, I mean, I could be incorrect, but he said that he like would bend it and fold it, and it would just, and once you just put it down on the table, it would just go right back to its original form.
So there was an episode on Unsolved Mysteries. Remember the old show Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah,
I love that show.
So there would be 3 mysteries per show. They had one episode that was just all about Roswell, and was the whole episode. And I remember them talking about like they would bend it and do whatever to go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
Talking about, it was the son talking about his dad and a couple other agents like looking at the stuff the night of the crash.
Yeah, and so like this is the parts of the wreckage that they were talking about that would just fold, like that would just go right back to its original form. And now this is where, like I said, this is where it kind of like throws me off when I was watching this little documentary today. I mean, I've seen, I don't know, like hundreds of documentaries on them, but like they were talking to the grandson, and he was saying that he had this stuff at his house. So his grandfather had it at his house, and that he and his father were, messing around with it and stuff like that. And then his commanding officer came in, and instead of showing this, they gave him the weather balloon bits to show to the press. So I think it was a general. That might have been I think it was a general. Took the stuff and left. Took these bits and left. And then like later on, like I don't know if it was weeks or months later, he brought the stuff back, which doesn't make sense to me. It's like, why would you give it back to him? That's what the grandson says, which throws me off. Like then I see, I get a little bit of doubt, and I'm like, well, why would he do that? They wouldn't do that. They would have this stuff locked up in that massive warehouse that the Cigarette Man was in.
But maybe they brought back decoys. They made replicas.
No, because, and they also, and if he brought him back, then I was also thinking, because he had said earlier that he and his father and the grandson had made replicas of these so they can show people like the detail on them. I was like, well, if you have the original stuff, why would you make replicas of it? Just show the real stuff. And it's like little things like
but
that.
if you had a copy of Avengers issue 1, you wouldn't take it over to your friend's house today and go check out this comic. You'd maybe take a photo of it and go,
I would
check
have
this
it in
out.
a case, and I'd be like, check it out. Like I would say, I would show that I present it in a case, and be like, look, this is it right here. And if it just goes back to normal, like if you fold it up, crumple it up, and stuff like that, it just goes right back into this form, then and it looks the same as it did back in 1947 as does, and whenever this documentary is made, then clearly there's no degradation in it. So why don't you just show the actual part? So that's like the little things that like they grab you. It's like you want to believe it all, But then you hear some of the stuff they're saying, and you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me.
And I think that's the real pull and pull of the situation is that, when you want to believe something, there's a suspension of disbelief where you let things go. We see with people, like we want to believe people that we're friends with are like good, or we want to believe that people will be their best, and then you see people acting weird, and you're like, oh man, that's not how. I still want to believe that they're good, and so you put up with stuff that isn't, and you're like, so I think that's what we're seeing in a lot of this is that we want to believe in this fantastic stuff so bad, and there's evidence along the way that points that way, but nothing concrete. We're like, yeah, I can rest my hat on that, and so you need to be a bit skeptical, but it's your skepticism fighting against your desire to want to believe it.
Yeah,
I think part of my thinking is, why would they bother faking it to begin with? What was the purpose of? That's the starting point. Is they've said something, and they say it's true, and then they say we have certain bits of evidence. I don't want to show you the real thing, but here's the thing, right? But why at the very beginning say they found it? For what purpose is that?
Why allow this story to go out if you're going to cover it up?
Well, I think that the story came out pretty quick by the farmer and whatnot. Like, I think I think maybe it was the first like big conspiracy cover up.
This was the story when Marcel was there, and he was on scene, and they talked to them, and they announced that they had a downed flying saucer. They found one.
I think, even though it's a funny movie and comic book series, right? In the movie Men in Black, Tommy Lee Jones's line where he says, like, a person can be intelligent, but people are frantic, and right? And so it's like this kind of information, true or false, could not be handled by the mass population.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Right. So I think that's what's going on there.
Yeah, but still, it's like, well, I mean, I guess they didn't really have any rules down pat when this happened, because I don't think before this there was no major sightings other than the guy flying a Cessna in the state of Washington, and the LA sighting over 1943, where the air defense was shooting at something in the sky, and they nabbed a picture of they got all these spotlights, and then in the center of the spotlight is just curiously is like a UFO. We're gonna call it a saucer-shaped object in the lights, and that was in 1943. But before that, really nothing, no crash sites that we know about. Nobody's ever talked about. Nobody's ever dealt with. And now in 1947, we have this massive incident, and I don't know what the R stands for, but the Army Air Force, right? So there was no actual Air Force at the time. It was the Army's air branch that was there. Yeah.
So I think one of the things that consistently makes me like, for whatever reason, is when you see documentaries, and there's so many of them out there, and they'll talk to like a certain generation of military men where they're like retired or just about to retire, like they're in their 60s and 70s, and they'll just like, oh yeah, we found this ship and put it over in this place, and just like it's not like they're uncovering stuff and being hush about it. They're just like so confidently being like, oh yeah, and we took 2 bodies from this ship and put it in this area, and we took this guy over here, and they're the lizard people, and just like rattle off like it's common knowledge. You're like, what world are you living in where you can just rattle that off?
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of fact of being there. It's like, why? It's why would I lie about it? This is what happened. But then you're on the other end where you're a little bit skeptical and saying, well, why would I believe you? Right. I don't know you from a wall, so why would I believe you? And I'm not that much faith in a random person that I come across to tell me he saw an alien and they moved it to Area 51. No, wait, no, they put it in Ohio. It's like, well, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
How are you, JLS Comics? Famous crash in Italy of 1933. I'll look that up right now. Let me look that up.
We're using our shoot the shit technology.
Yeah. What are you looking it up, Gaz?
I'm looking at it right now. Yep.
All right, I'll leave you to it.
No, go ahead.
Tell me more.
Oh, that's an app. I don't want to go to an app.
I don't want to go to an app.
I want the story, not a YouTube, a Wikipedia. Here we go. UFO sightings in Italy go back to 100 BC.
Okay.
There you go, 1933. Material so-called fashion which dealt with flying saucer that had crashed near Milan in 1933, 14 years before Roswell. An investigation that never mentioned before. It's allegedly unauthorized. There's really not much about it.
Yeah.
Ship was allegedly stored in hangars.
To me, if I was gonna say, like, if someone's like, hey, like, give to me proof that, you know, this kind of stuff is real, it's not so much these stories, but the weird phenomenon we see around the world physically. So, like, the Aztec lines to me are like the weirdest thing. Like, how could we have done that? How could humans have done the Aztec lines? Like, I don't understand.
I don't think it's how. I think it's why. Like, for what reason?
Sure, both those things. Like, what audience are they making those for?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know about them being runways, but I mean, you know, who's seeing that? Who are they showing? I mean, they believe in gods, but I mean, you know, really, who and the accuracy of them as well. I mean, they're pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty precise.
Not to say that, and I'm not saying that the Asian people were stupid. They weren't. They were pretty smart. The things that they built and stuff, and it's just crazy. It's crazy to think that, like, why are they, why is there a giant picture of a bird on this plateau? Like, who are they showing this?
Like massive, like weirdly massive.
And then there's some blocks, I think, in Bolivia, or it could be Peru. I forget the name of the site. And there's these, like, blocks that are cut in like an H shape, and they lock into each other to form a giant wall, and they have just, like, random ones laying around, and, like, the precision of the cuts are just so, like, you would, like, today, obviously, because we're so hindered by technology, we can't imagine us not doing it without it. Like, when they talk about the pyramids, like, how did they do that? Well, they had thousands of slaves doing this, so that's how they did it. And it was over like 30, 40 years. But then you're like, well, maybe it was UFOs and they were just plopping the big blocks down here and there. But these blocks that were cut in this H shape are so precise. Like, they're so precise that it's like, it's hard to comprehend somebody with a chisel doing that. Right? It's hard to comprehend because they're so perfect and precise. That, like, the only thought is, like, well, this is machined in some way. Somebody machined this. How did they do this? Right? And you don't know about the tribes that did it because I think they're lost to society.
Well, have you heard the theory that there are civilization waves, right? And this isn't our first go at modern technology. It's something that we've gone to a certain point, and then it's reset, and then we build ourselves back up to the society again. That's why we find ancient relics that could be like, how did they do that with sticks and stones? Well, maybe they didn't. Maybe they did do it with technology that's now lost, and we're sort of refinding it again with this new reset. But how far is Roswell? Can we go past Roswell on our way to Joe Fest? Can we do that trip? The wrong direction?
Add 8 days.
Let's add 8 days to the road trip.
On the other side.
Grab some souvenirs.
That's a big U-ing. We're taking a big U-turn.
I'd say let's do it.
I think we'd have better luck finding the lost Averill Arrow in Canada.
Oh, what's that?
So are you guys aware of the Averill Arrow?
No.
What's that name?
Okay, so I don't want to derail.
Didn't she sing Skater Boy?
No, that's Avril Lavigne. So the Averill Arrow, what year was this developed? And this might tie into what your little tinfoil hats here. But there was a company in Canada called Avro, and they were charged with making a supersonic jet fighter. So the Avro Arrow CF-105,
Thank you, JLS.
yeah, held a promise of Mach 2 speeds and altitudes exceeding 50,000 feet, and it was in 1960s. So the Avro was begun its development in 1953, and then it made all the way. They produced I think 4 of them, and
Is
then
this
a jet. Yeah, it's a sweet looking jet. Here, I'll get a picture of it up here for you.
All right, here, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah,
See, I think we could do it. It's only 21 hours.
only 21 hours.
RonCon. We'll do RonCon
Yeah.
1 year. We'll go.
All right, the next year. Roscon.
Roswell.
Ronwell.
Ronwell. If you want to share that, there's this.
Yeah, buddy.
So there's the.
Oh, check it out.
Yeah, see, like, all right. I mean, if you look at jet technology leading up to this point, right? You're talking like the end of the 40s, going into the 50s, right?
Mm.
And you see some of this stuff. You see some of these like stuff like this, and you're thinking to yourself, I can see I can see a F4 Phantom in that, but the F4 Phantom came out in I think the mid 60s.
So this
right?
this started developing in 1954.
Yeah.
They produced I think 4 of them, and it was going. Everything was it was performing perfectly, and then at the last minute, the American funding was pulled, and they invested all the money into these rockets that didn't work.
Okay.
So, but there's rumors and speculation that someone still has one of these in a barn somewhere in Ontario.
That's
Actually,
cool. Let's look at every barn.
Yeah,
The front of it kind of looks like a fox. I think it was a foxbat, a Russian foxbat. I forget what kind of meat it is.
yeah.
It looks
There was
like
a
fox.
movie. There was a movie about it starring Dan Aykroyd.
The Spies Like Us.
No, yeah,
That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
this is called the Avro Arrow.
I'm gonna look that up.
Do-
Well, look.
Thanks,
like,
Stephen.
But here, like Steven. But here's the thing. The stealth fighter, the F-114, I think it is.
Yeah,
The F-114. I think that is. I'm not sure if that's what it is. The Sparrow. I think you call it Sparrow. You can look it up. That thing was started developing in the 70s, right?
yeah.
Maybe even earlier than that.
Hmm.
I think the F-15 or the F-16 was developed in the late 50s into the 60s as well. I mean, you're talking about like these jet technologies just leaped forward after this incident. I'm not attributing it to the incident. I'm just saying it's kind of odd. I mean, we're a pretty intelligent group of people. We are, right? We can figure things out pretty good, but things move a little faster when we have something guiding us. That's all I'm trying to say. I mean, like all of a sudden we have these little microchips come out of nowhere. We just develop them, microcomputers and all this stuff. Well, where do we get that? Where do we get that different at? I mean, yeah, naturally we do want to. We build things, we make something, and we want to make them smaller and more efficient as we go along, right? And unless we're like the big car companies and we still want to keep making big cars, but nonetheless, that technology's got to come from somewhere, right? I mean, if you think about it this way, okay, here, the 70s when they had the gas shortage, right? They asked the motor companies, how long would it take you to develop an engine that doesn't run on gasoline? And they said it'll take about 30 years for us to develop an engine to do that, right? And 30 years later, we had a little bit of a small gas crisis, and again they asked them, how long would it take, and they said the same thing. And it's like we have like Tesla, we have these electric cars that are out there and stuff like that, and they're super expensive, and I'm sure that this technology has been around for a long time because they were designing electric cars in the 40s. There's like a French designer that designed an electric car to drive around Paris, and it looked like a light bulb, and it was completely electric.
It was a good idea. Bing.
Yeah.
That arrow, why did that look like every kid's foam toy plane that you would, and it would glide so well.
Because it's
Looks
a
exactly
great
like it.
design. It's a great design.
Mm.
They needed to do something
Scrap the
with
project and
design.
just put it into toy.
Yeah, but no, it was
Well,
it was like last minute they scrapped it for some rockets from an American company, and the rockets didn't end up working, and it was all just for naught. But it was like the arrow thing is always fascinated me. I want to go find it, take it for a rip.
So do you think people put out all these hoaxes and stuff, right, to get the conversation started? So maybe they're hoax, maybe they're not, but they gauge the reactions of the masses to see where they're at, how they would be able to handle that sort of. I mean, War of the Worlds proved that people hearing that there may be an invasion, they'll go off the rails, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
think,
So do you think
I
it was?
think the pandemic of a few years ago proved that people will go off the rails.
Yeah.
Toilet paper, that still pisses me off. Nobody needed that much toilet paper. Out of
No,
all the
but-
things that.
That
I
one guy
think-
in New Jersey did.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. I think right, wrong, or indifferent. We were the first time our generation was told the definitive no, you can't do this, and then we were like, no, I'm not going to get to what to do. And it was just like I don't think, I don't know if that did anything but prove that like we weren't ready for that. Like,
Yeah,
Well,
it's definitely
it was
not.
surreal, right?
yeah, it was.
The,
It was
the pandemic was surreal. It was
like I
like
truly
nothing.
believe that if another disease or whatever happened to the same effect, the majority of society would just be like, no, we're not doing it. You're not going to tell us what to do this time.
Yeah,
And people would
yeah, I
get-
feel that.
So,
People
Could you
would be-
imagine? Imagine giant saucer objects in the sky hovering over major cities? What do you think would happen then? Stay in your home. Don't come out.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be like we were in the pandemic? Are we gonna have people like on rooftops
Rooftop parties,
signs-
definitely.
with signs saying
Yeah.
"Is Elvis alive? Is Elvis there?"
Mm.
right?
Are we gonna be like that, or are we gonna be are we gonna have skeptic people that are gonna be like, it ain't real, it's hologram?
It's all smokes and mirrors. So Nate is saying that there were electric cars in the 20s. Henry Ford teamed up with Tesla, he thinks, but the Ford engineers ended up using lead acid batteries instead of the Tesla nickel batteries, and so it was scrapped. Very interesting.
I mean, now the car companies are making electric cars like crazy.
Mhm.
You know, and I think in about 20 years time, not even, we're going to have pretty affordable electric cars, and I think a lot of us are going to be driving electric cars. I mean, we're going to say like, no, I'll never give up my gas guzzler, but
Well, I think it'll be a
impossible.
generational of acceptance thing, right? Like there's a younger generation that accepts an electric car. I have a hard time trusting an electric car. I'm like, yeah, but what if I run the juice halfway down and I can't charge it up? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like it's weird. Okay, so like I don't know how cold it gets where you are, Zazel, but like me and Adam,
No.
our winters can get very cold,
Very cool.
and what that does to battery life is pretty bad. It'll drain the motor. And I live in a house that's basically over 100 years old.
So do I.
You know,
Well, a lot of our so we have petrol stations, right? A lot of our petrol stations are adding electric plugins, right? How do they determine how much? How do they determine how much a jolt is? But there's no way that you could go through the Australian outback with a battery charge from one step to the other. We need Mad Max style gas guzzlers to get through the dead center of Australia.
Yeah, baby. But also, like, how long does you have experience with gas stations, Hazel? How long does the average fill up take? 5 minutes?
For gas, for petrol, 5 minutes.
Right. And how much does it take to charge up your electric car? Like how long?
So interestingly, when I was working in that field, they were transitioning all of our servos or service stations into more cafe style, right? So they had coffee machines and a lot of free Wi-Fi, coffee machines, food. The food offer went through the roof. Like instead of just having pies and sausage rolls, now we're making a whole menu of items, because they design it for it could take 30 minutes to an hour to charge your vehicle. So now you're going to come in and you're going to spend. You're going to use the Wi-Fi. You're going to sit down. You're going to have a coffee. You're going to have something to eat. And now it's a hangout place instead of just a quick grab and go.
Right.
And I reckon
the amount of space it would take to put the same amount of cars through if they're there for an hour as opposed to 5 minutes. It would like the land it would take to house all these electric cars. It was not possible.
So
but they could probably charge them quicker though.
Yeah. See, here we have in my neck of the woods, most of the charging stations are in malls. Like the little part of the parking lot has been devoted to.
Yeah, we got those too now. Yeah.
So you go in the mall, but I mean, like, I drive a road that's called the Mass Pike. It's a major highway that goes through Massachusetts. So you can get it, you know, and there the rest stations have a port. They have port stations, but the last time I saw, I haven't been in one. I haven't been in a rest area for a long time, but they only had like one or two. So I can't imagine just sitting there waiting for the guy before you to charge up so you can go. So I'm assuming they're fast port chain stations, so they must charge up the car a lot quicker. But even though 20 minutes is still a chunk of time.
Yeah.
So the app, when you're charging, the app tells you how long someone's been using it for and how long they have left.
Yeah.
So the technology tells you how long the next person's going to be if you show up behind someone. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be reliant on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it really depends on where you are, whether it makes sense or not. So I think electric cars make sense, like if you live in a city or an outer like urban area. But like if you're living like in the middle of the woods, in the outback, it doesn't kind of make sense because, unless the car is going to start self-charging itself as you move, like taking energy from the brakes and the wheels themselves.
Yeah. So my wife brings up an interesting point. There was a lady who came to the cafe she works at. It's been there, the Lighthouse Cafe in Mount Albert, Ontario.
Great place. Check it out.
So there was a power outage in town, and she couldn't charge her car. So she would there was like a couple days where she's like, yeah, I can't charge my car. I can't go anywhere. I can't leave my driveway because my car won't charge. And so she, we would usually get her coffee at home or out. So she came to the cafe for the first time. She's like, I can't get to work. I can't do anything. My car won't charge because there's a power outage.
I guess most people here are buying the hybrids, the half and half situation, which kind of makes sense.
The hybrids that they were really pushing a couple of decades ago was the LPG gas and like auto gas and petrol hybrids, and they were offering huge returns on if you used your existing vehicle and transitioned over to LPG. I don't know what you guys call it over where you guys are, but gas was a different thing to petrol. I know gas is gasoline, but we had like LPG, automotive gas. Natural gas, right. So and then a lot of service stations had those pumps, and the one that I had, they are so dangerous, right? If you ever see a video of an LPG vehicle blow up, it doesn't just ignite, it blows up like a bomb. We had an incident at my work where someone had a hole in their tank, and as they were filling, it was just bellowing out the bottom of it, and we had to evacuate, far. And there was no stopping it. You stopped the pump, obviously, but there was no stopping it from leaking out. You just got to get away from it. And the most that they could do was just spray water on it until it dissipated. It was crazy.
No, I've never. I don't even think they do that here in the States. Natural gas cars. That doesn't make sense to me. Natural gas.
Well, they've stopped doing it. So the pin on that topic, and I guess the reason why I brought it up is because they were pushing it for so long and transitioning cars and making it such a big deal, but then they started to pull, because of the cost of it all, they started to pull those tanks out recently, and now people with LPG cars, they can't fill up. They can't do anything with it.
Have you guys ever seen the cars that are converted to run on French fry grease from like fast food places?
No.
I've seen a couple of videos.
There's these cars that are like they're converted to run. It's like a diesel engine, but it's converted to run on like French fry grease. And so the problem is like, where do you get the French fry grease from? So you'll see a car and it'll smell like a chip truck driving by you.
I'm happy with that. I would be so happy with that. French fries.
So here,
That's a good point, Heather. Good point.
Yeah, here it's half gas, half electric. So the gas motor
Right.
actually helps kind of charge the electric motor up a little bit as they go on, which makes sense to me. It makes logical sense. It's like, why are you gonna have a car that's solely electricity that it can't generate its own power? Like while it's driving, it should use that kinetic force from the wheels and the brakes to charge up a battery in case that in case your battery is starting to drain, and it charges it back up as it's driving, kind of like what an alternator does for your regular battery in your car. Right. I'm just saying. I don't know why that technology. That's maybe it is there. I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb today, but yeah.
No, man,
Well,
you're
man,
the smartest Gazz I know. I think it all sort of goes with the halt on technology and the twist on technology, in that I think if we wanted to, we could design things that would be better for the environment, but the money's not there. The money in fossil fuels is still, it's $billion profit still.
Well, and to tie it back to Roswell, I think that a lot of it, like, so electric cars on paper, and you say, oh, we're not going to use fossil fuels, we're going to use electric cars, that's better for the environment. It's actually not better for the environment, but that's like the public face, right? Like, and so it's all about like, what does the government want us to believe, and what do they want their impression to be? Are you guys aware of David Suzuki? Does that name ring a bell to you guys?
No.
Like the car?
No. So there's a Canadian fella named David Suzuki. He used to have a sweet show back in the 80s called The Nature of Things, and he'd be doing science and talking about nature. And his whole thing is like protect the environment. He's a big environmentalist and like kind of like a Canadian icon.
Okay.
So he was speaking at a town where I was working 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little longer. And so it was when the hybrids just came out, the first Toyota hybrids where they half it. And so he was a big environmentalist, but they were so new that only certain car rental places had them. So he was coming to speak at the university in this town where I was working. And his contract, and my buddy worked at the school, said, like, I need to be picked up from the airport in a hybrid and driven to the school in a hybrid. And they said, okay, well, like, for us to get a hybrid here, we've actually got to drive to Kingston, which is like a far, far away town, pick up a hybrid that we have rental there, drive that back, pick you up, bring you to the school, then drive back to Kingston, return the hybrid, and drive our car back. So it's actually a lot more carbon output to not just pick up in a regular car. And his response was, I can't be seen and not in a hybrid. So it's like, doesn't matter what the actual effect on the environment is. It's all about perception, right? And so there's this idea of like, what is the perception of us? What's the perception of the green initiatives that we take versus what the reality is? I think Heather mentioned that like the carbon footprint to make an electric car is way bigger than the carbon footprint to make a regular car. Oh, look at Commander Gazz.
How did you do that?
I don't know. I feel kind of left out.
How'd you do? Where'd you get that technology from all of a sudden?
I don't know. These aliens just came in and said, "Hey, do this." Oh, it's the virtual background here in this program that we're using.
I've never used it.
Oh wait, there we go.
Right.
Brilliant. As for most things these days, it's all for show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel ya.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
and
there are seemingly no gas stations, let alone a charging station from the Canadian border all the way to Bangor, Maine. Oh. Okay, that would be a level of adventure. Talk about anxiety.
Yeah, so Heather was just in Gazz's neck of the woods. She went out to visit our niece in Prince Edward Island, and then drove back home through the States and came up through Gazz's neck of the woods. And she said, yeah, there's a large stretch there where she's like, I don't know if we're going to make it.
I think, yeah, I'm not too sure about them too, but, you know, A lot of forest up there.
Mhm.
Oh, and here's a good point. Shout out to TJC, who's now a bus driver. With the hydrogen
Yeah.
bus tech, the pressure in the lines is thousands of psi. Very dangerous if they fail. Hmm.
Mm. Can you
And
pull up
it's also
G-Force's comment a little earlier? I'm looking at my other computer here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's just above the go figure where Adam says that that truck is a bomb. Is the bomb?
This one,
Yeah, I'm waiting for that
Liquid
too.
Schwartz. I see your Schwartz is as fast as mine.
But I think yeah, man. Like I said, that technology jump that we've had since the late 50s on, it's just been so massive that I mean, like Roswell is one crash that we know about. How many more have
Mm.
happened since that we don't know about and they don't talk about? You know, they're keeping it on the wraps, keeping the secrets. I mean, we hear about the infamous the Air Force base, or the British Air Force base in England that we were talking about the
Wait,
last time around. And there was the incident that happened in Canada. I forget what bay it's called. Um, it's supposed to be I'm gonna look it up so I know. Maybe Adam's aware of this area.
maybe it's near me.
I forget the name of the bay. You know, I deleted
hang
all
on, my
the
dog's
ones
trying
I
to
had
chew
from
my
my.
cord.
Was it the one in Shag Harbor?
That's it, Shag Harbor. Yes, it Shag Harbor. There was that incident as well, and they never found anything. But did they? Maybe the Canadians got it,
Yeah.
or the U.S. got it. I don't know. But I think it's interesting because around the world, if you look at it, I think I want to say Argentina and France, like two major countries that stand out to me. They actually share the info that they have. They actually have departments that investigate UFOs and things like Roswell and UFO sightings and stuff like that. And they actually share and they put out reports to the people, like transparent. I don't know how transparent they really are, but there
Mm.
and they're constantly. There's a documentary that I watched a couple months ago. They're constantly asking the U.S. to share some of the information that they have, on UFOs and flying and unidentified flying phenomenons. And the U.S. just refuses to do it, and for some strange reason. And they always declare it being a threat to national security. But it's like, it's a threat. It could be a threat to the entire world, and I don't think anybody should hide that from anybody. I mean, we all should know what's going on.
But we are a threat to the entire world.
At least we are, aren't we?
Mm. Nate makes a good point. Why wasn't this on the news? I heard there was an incident in Thunder Bay. A bunch of middle-aged time travelers turned up in the 80s and went to Zeller's. In fact, I heard they did it twice, and there may be a third happening soon. Wait, stop chewing that. Get away from it. My dog's trying to cut me
So
off.
they
He knows something.
So Heather and I have, and maybe this will be RonCon 2 in 2026, but my wife and I have always dreamed of traveling through the United States of America, stopping at every major UFO sighting place.
That
It's
would
like
be cool.
seeing the town, talking to the people, hearing their stories. Because there's some that are like, so take the guys from like the Arizona logging abduction, right? Like I think it's Fire in the Sky book.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Like
That's a
that
crazy story.
guy's story is so consistent, like hasn't changed in 40 years. Like this is what happened. Here's the book. Like it's very, and you're like, usually when people are lying to you, they got to tell more lies to cover that lie. And I always say in my line of work, the truth will set you free, right? And so these guys have always just stuck to their same story. And you talk to them now, and he's like, yeah, like it's rough. Like I haven't been able to kind of function since, but this is what happened. Like that's just the reality of what happened. And so you see stuff like that, and you're like, well, that's a long con for this guy to be like 40 years into the story.
Why would you want that kind of scrutiny anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
he goes on, and he was saying in his last documentary, he's like, yeah, like everybody makes fun of me, and like people think we're crazy. And he's like, but I'm not going to change my story just because people think we're crazy. That's what happened.
it'll be very disappointing if he did come back and say, "Nah, I faked it." Because I do believe that one. I do believe that one.
Yeah, something.
Gaz is on the phone to him now.
Yeah.
He wants.
So and again, when it comes to like believing stuff, I'm not saying like, yeah, definitely aliens, but like something happened to those guys.
Well, I was just looking it up. There's another one here. It happened in New Hampshire. The Barney and Betty Hill abduction. They did a movie out of it. It had James Earl Jones in it. And like, why would they make that stuff up? Like, I mean, like some people need that kind of attention, so they do it. But when they're like regular folk, and you can, well, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell people, but again, it also goes to back trusting people you don't know. But like for stories, and they're very detailed stuff. And if you look that case up, it's very detailed on what they talk about, and their story doesn't change at all. They see psychiatrists and all this other. Their story changes at all, and they're in separate rooms and they're talking about it. And it doesn't change at all through the whole time they're talking. And like, why would that's very detailed. Why would you make that up? Why? And that kind of stuff. And I kind of contradicted myself where I say I tend not to believe, but if the story, like you listen to the story and you don't hear any inconsistencies, you listen to what they say and nothing changes, and you start like investigating for yourself. You're thinking about it. Could this happen? This could have happened. Why would they make that up? But sometimes, like when I was listening to this documentary today with the grandson of Jesse Marcel's talking about it, and I heard some inconsistencies, which makes me doubt his story. Now it makes me doubt the whole thing, like some of the things that happened. It makes me doubt. Why would they give back this evidence? They wouldn't give it back. You're going to tell me the U.S. military is going to give alien? No. I'm going to say technology, but I guess you can call it technology. They're going to give them alien technology back. They're not going to want to keep it and reverse it and build a better gun, better weapon, better helicopter, better plane, whatever. Or the scientists that get a hold of it. Like, we can make a stronger car. We can make stronger buildings and frames for buildings and all this other stuff. But no, we're just going to give it back to the Marcellus family because they found it in the desert at this crash site. It doesn't make sense to me, right? Especially if they have a UFO, they're not going to give any proof that it's actually there. They're going to want to make that guy believe that what he saw wasn't real. It's that whole thing where you're telling something. Well, you didn't really see it. You didn't really see it. You didn't really see it. I mean, you told that enough times, you're going to say to yourself, well, maybe I didn't really see it. You start doubting yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and then there's the whole eyewitness thing. Like, 10 people see something, and if you listen to their stories as the years go by and they tell it to somebody else, the story changes. It wasn't 2 aliens, it was 3. It wasn't just 1 UFO, it was 4 that crashed. You know what I mean? It always changes.
Yeah.
So when you hear a story,
well, that happens in everyday life anyway. That's why when they're gathering, remember Gavin? When they're gathering information, the police force, right? They want to get it as soon as possible before your mind starts to fabricate things that you think happened but didn't. So
a lot of the Roswell stuff came out in the 80s. A lot of the stuff that that we found out about, them revisiting and talking about it was all in the 80s. So now you're talking to old man, Marcellus. It's not like that the Army guy. I mean, he's retired Army. He's older, a lot older. Now it's all trying to remember what happened, and you hear some of the you can listen to the story. And I'm not saying, because I actually believe that a UFO crashed there. Something happened there. They found some stuff and they got some stuff. Clearly, there's some stuff going on there. But you listen to his story, and it's like I don't actually think you remember it the way you remember it. You know what I mean? And I wish they had, documented more of it as when it happened, and story wise, because they wouldn't have. If that happened now, we wouldn't have got a story in the paper saying they got a saucer. It would have been like a Cessna crashed, or it would have been God forbid a jetliner crash or something like that. That's what they would have come out with.
Right.
So-
What about these underwater bases? Do we know anything about that? I don't know too much about it.
I know there's tunnels under the ocean for driving to Japan.
Fair enough.
Well, Godzilla uses them to get around the world.
Exactly. Although, Basil, I want to say something unrelated here, and I know that you know that you mean more to me than you know, and we're brothers from across the ocean. But we have a dog who's 1 year old, and he's nuts. And he tests my patience every day. And then you hold up your little dog, and my
Yeah.
wife sees it, and now she's across from me saying, "I want one of those dogs too." And if you keep bringing that dog onto your stream, it's going to make me have a second dog at my home, and it's gonna stress our friendship out. So if you could just keep your dog off the stream when my wife is watching, that would be better for me.
If it helps, I have spent the last 10 minutes trying to stop him from chewing my cables, and he keeps bloody going over there. So I don't recommend it.
Is it the spacesuit cable or the second cable? Which cable is he chewing
The
on?
third one, so I don't really mind.
Okay.
Third edition. Well, don't
Guys,
complain about it.
On that note, I'm gonna bow out. Gotta get to bed over here in Canada, and gotta get some stuff going on early tomorrow. But this has been a great evening hanging out with some legends. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna go up and take me to your leader.
All right, beam me up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
Talk later,
Good having
guys.
you, Adam.
See you, buddy.
Like I was saying,
Adam does rule.
he does. He's a good guy. Like I was saying, it's just a, I don't know. It's just an odd phenomenon. As you have to be somewhat of a skeptic to like look at this stuff. You can't just look at it through one lens. You got to kind of like figure it out and say to yourself, what can you believe? Is it real? And what happened, and try to logically make sense of it. Even because you can't just believe everything you hear, otherwise you're gonna be chasing stuff around like crazy. It's kind of like our
Go on, I'm listening. I'm just going to move my cords out the way. But I'm listening to you, buddy.
it's kind of like the phenomena of the of like the mythic creatures that we had when we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and we need to cover a couple of months ago that we need to go over again. It's the same type of thing. It's like Mothman. People can swear that they've seen it, but does it make sense? Or it's even Bigfoot.
I have a theory. I think that part of it is that the truth is somewhere in the mix, right? So it's not as black and white probably as the people who claim that this thing has happened, and it's not as black and white as this didn't happen at all, like the government want to spin. Somewhere in the middle is something closer to the truth, and I think that's where a lot of the reason why the government needs conspiracy theorists, right? Because the closer they get to the truth, the crazier they sound and the less believable it is. But I think,
narrative.
and I think that's right, because if you just outwardly stop people from talking about it, people just get louder and louder. But if you let them talk about it, then other people just think they're crazy. Poncho, get away from there too. So I move one thing and he has to grab another. Heather, this is not the dog for you. You do not need this.
Well, I mean, you got a bunch of conspiracy theorists out there, from UFO conspiracy theorists to like, I don't want to say it, but the flat earthers, which I think is just it's just ridiculous if you listen to that. I spent like
but
few months.
But Gaz, I love to hear a good flat Earth conspiracy. I saw some images of a flat Earth that had like circles amongst this frozen tundra, and our world was in one of these divots in the ice, and there were other worlds around it. It's like, damn, that's probably not true, but damn, it looks cool.
Yeah, it's like I went through. I think it was at least a year just like diving into it. I was listening to like people that would try to debunk them. So you listen, they would tell the person's theory and then kind of debunk it. So I'm hearing both sides because I'm a skeptic. I just wanted to hear what they were talking about, and then I just got like drawn into it. Not that I believe in any of it or anything. I don't, but it's so crazy to think it. You know what I mean?
The problem is we live in a world of trolls, that it's hard to believe someone is being genuine, and whether or not they believe that there is a flat Earth, or whether they just want the attention of being a troll and just arguing for the sake of argument that it is a flat Earth. But I think that it would be amazing if we found out that everything isn't quite like it seems. And I don't know if we could handle it as a species, that kind of truth bomb, if it were to be true. But the concept of something different than we know,
Yeah.
and that's why we believe in this sort of stuff, is because we want the unfathomable to be true, because it's so fantastical that's why we read comic books, that's why we watch movies. It's because we want this stuff.
I literally think that if a massive UFO, like a mothership, just showed up and just like landed at the doorstep of the White House or Buckingham Palace or outside the Louvre in Paris, I think literally the world would stop. We would all stop.
But I've mentioned this before. So the world has stopped on a few occasions, though, and one of those was with the pandemic. But I think, in all seriousness, and I mentioned this on one of our streams before, is that the human race is quite like a deer out in the wilderness. And a deer out in the wilderness spends its life pretty much ignorant to everything that's happening around it while it's eating and existing, right? All of a sudden, a lion shows up, and that is its main focus, right there and then. It's life or death. That they have to get away from that lion, and they run for their lives. They run and they run and they run, and eventually, if they get away, what does a deer do? It's like it never happened. It's like there was no lion. It just goes back to eating grass, like it's normal again. And I reckon that's what would happen, is that we would panic for a bit. Then after that, it would be like life just goes back to normal. We go back to work. I
was gonna say like a couple days, maybe a week or so, and then we would start going back to work. We'd start doing stuff. I mean, I don't even think that we would. I think like that day we'd be like, oh my god, and then like the next day it's like going back to work. Because I remember here we had the Boston Marathon bombing, right?
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think maybe 10 years ago. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, about right there. So I live just out. I live outside of Boston. I work like not in Boston, but in the outskirts of Boston. Right. So when that happened, I got a call from my boss to say, don't come to work. Everything's locked down here. Right. So even here where I am, everybody was like glued to the TV. Nobody was doing anything. Now I remember going to the store and there was nobody at the store, just the employees. Yep. You know what I mean? And that was just that. And when 9/11 happened, right? I mean, the government actually put things in a freeze, but for like a week. Yeah, that day I was at work that day. They sent us home. I didn't go to work for like 2 or 3 days. They told me just to stay home, and then I went to work, and it was like a ghost town. Like everybody was just talking about that, just driving on, and like there was nobody going to work. So I'm thinking like this is what would happen in a situation is for a couple of days to a week, we would just be like, most of us would just be fascinated about what's going on. Obviously, you can have people out there that me saying, "No, that's not real. It's fake."
Yeah.
Hollywood stuff. But we'd all be fascinated, and then you'll get the online arguments, Facebook arguments, all that stuff like that. And then after like about a week or so, when maybe it just doesn't do nothing or it leaves, we're off back to doing everything we're doing, and
people would get bored of it. People would get bored of it.
Yeah.
I do love Heroic Nonsense saying that that's no moon. Artificial satellite for the moon. I love that theory too. That's a great theory. It's a great concept. There's
a movie. I think it's Moon Crash. Is that the name of the movie? Came out a few years ago.
Yeah, and it had like the swarm of things coming out and attacking technology. Love that movie. So good.
Great film. Oh man, I love that.
I loved it.
Stuff.
I like the movie The Core. The Core. Have you seen that one? That was a great movie too.
The guy who played Two-Face, right?
Yes.
Forget his name. Yeah, that's a great movie too. I love those kind of movies.
I think it was Dent, right?
Yeah, he played. Yeah, he was the guy who created it, and then they brought him back in. They created some machine or whatever that was messing with the Earth's core.
Oh
They're
yeah,
slowing
yeah,
it
yeah,
down.
yeah. And they kick him off his own project. They're like, oh, hang on,
Yeah,
we kind of need you.
yeah, we couldn't need you
How
because
are
we
you,
kind of screwed
Kenny?
up. Was it the other one? It had Peter
Dragon
Cushing
Egg.
and wow, what was it? Peter Cushing. Why can't I think of this guy's name now? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Journey to the Center of the Earth. I'm looking at McClure, Doug McClure, and
Okay,
Peter
yeah,
Cushing. Journey to the Center of the Earth. Have you seen that one? That's a great film.
I have. That is a great movie. The
Yeah.
classics were so good. The remakes, are hit and miss, but you can't beat a classic.
No, you
And
can't be a classic.
I feel like one of the ones that was debunked recently that really put a damper on my feeling for the unknown was the bloop. I think it was called the bloop, like the loudest sound from an animal, unknown animal.
Okay.
I'll read it out. I'll look it up. I think it was called the bloop. Um,
Bloop.
and for a long time, like they measured the sound, and for a long time it was determined to be the largest animal in the ocean. I think it was called the bloop. Let me look it up. Something like that, anyway.
Bloop was an ultra low
Um,
frequency, high amplitude underwater sound detected by the U.S. National Oceanic and Astrophysical Institute, NOAA, in 1977. Is that what you're talking about? Underwater?
it was underwater. I don't know if it was in '77. I thought it was quite recent, but they were saying that it was some sort of gigantic underwater
No,
creature made that sound.
yeah, 1997 was when they recorded the sound.
Okay,
It was under a
and it,
glacier in Antarctica.
so it turned out that it wasn't a giant underwater creature after all. It was Arctic ice dropping into the ocean,
Really?
and it was like, and I was like, that's a shame because
Oh,
I
you
was
wanted
hoping
a
for a
sea
giant
monster, right?
sea creature. Yeah, 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 yeah. Something,
Something
yeah.
squid? Kraken?
Kraken, something,
Like a
something.
kraken?
But it
Something
was
crazy?
just ice,
Well, I mean, they just discovered a
or
massive.
was it?
Well, they just discovered a massive squid. I think in Japan.
Mm,
I think it was. So I mean, even larger than what they thought was out there. So that's crazy. And they got to grow
that
big
is
because
crazy.
they fight blue. Was it blue whales or sperm? No, sperm whales, right? Moby
Oh
Dick
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm,
fight those things. So yeah, they got to be pretty big if they're gonna fight those. That's craziness, man. I don't know. You gotta have a fondness for the unknown. Gotta have that imagination going. Bloop. I mean, it could have been
yeah.
large.
But do you think once things are known that it loses some of its flair?
Well, yeah. Once you know what it is, obviously. I mean, like UFO. The term UFOs become tainted because it's associated with flying saucers. This is why they
Right.
named
Yeah.
it UAPs, right? They change it to UAPs, right? So like whenever somebody says UFOs, we think about this thing right above my head, right?
Yep. Sure do.
Or that over there. I mean, you see the footage. You see the footage that happened, especially that in U.S. Navy footage. From I think it's the Roosevelt. Roosevelt. In the south, off the shore of Southern California. They have the Tic Tac and they're following it around and routines and stuff. See that footage? And, it's
Uh,
military. You know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
think, I think I know what I think I know what you're referencing. How far back was that?
That was just in the early 2000s, I think. Early 2000s.
Yeah, I remember something similar in an episode of Unknown Mysteries or something as well, where they had like darting UFOs while the pilot was flying.
Yeah,
Um,
this stuff right here.
so
This stuff right here.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
stuff.
so
They
cool.
call it the Tic Tac UFO. And they're falling around, then it goes underwater and it comes back up. And that was Adam's question right
Oh,
before.
I'd tell him about the drop bears, but this is not a horror show. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about horror.
All right.
It's too scary to talk about. We'll do the horror. We'll do horror another day. Actually, horror would be a great topic. I reckon we should.
I would. Not one of my favorite topics, but I'll go for it. It's cool.
So we did mention this at the top of the episode about how there could have been a civilization reset, and that's why we see some stuff that we can't explain how it was built or how it was made because that civilization's been lost, and we've sort of had to build ourselves back up again.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's they found that they had like working lights that aren't cattle lights, and I think what region was that? I want to say Egyptian times or maybe even Greek times. They actually had like working lights. Obviously not the way that our lights work, but something similar.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that these guys could do some stuff. And I mean, then there's a whole legend of Atlantis they were supposed to be so technically advanced than everybody else, just built in an unfortunate region. They got sunk. Maybe they blew themselves up.
You maniacs!
You blew it all up. On the topic of Atlantis, they actually think somebody actually thinks they found out where it was, and it's not in the ocean. It's on the western coast of North Africa.
I saw that too.
Desert. Yeah, there's a region that
and it looks. Yeah. I love that concept too, where it's not quite how you think, like, and how stories can change over time. I like how that sort of highlights how our perceived myths can change over time there.
Because I remember them looking all over the world, and like the focal point was like the Caribbean, you know, in that area. Like off the one person was speculating was off the coast of Cuba, and then you have the road. I think it's in Jamaica that goes up. There's like a stone road going out into the ocean there. And then if you think about like ancient Greek times in their world, right? Their world, if you look at it, their world was that small section of area, the Mediterranean Sea, and then they knew out, you know, to the Middle East and all that stuff, because you had cultures there that were coming into their world and all that stuff. So like if they're writing about Atlantis from stories that they heard, I forget the name of the philosopher that was writing about them. They would often come to stories. So the most logical, if it was at sea, it would most likely be in the Mediterranean Sea, right? Because that's their world. They don't know anything beyond that. Yeah, but
Right.
I think in the stories they say they go beyond the Pillars of Hercules. I think that is the entrance of the Mediterranean Sea, so it's somewhere out there. But I don't know. It's crazy to think about. It's nuts.
I think if we were to have a civilization reset, right? Just going back onto that for a second. Think about how long it would take, right? And I think it would take a very long time. So if you and me were survivors of an apocalyptic event, you and I, no offense to you guys and no offense to myself, but I wouldn't know how to do shit.
Oh no. Oh, not
Right? I couldn't rebuild technology. I wouldn't know shit, right? And then if we lose all the brainiacs, and then we've just got the people that can go out and hunt and survive on the land, right? That's probably who's going to thrive. People that can survive on the land are the ones that are going to thrive, right? But they might not be that technologically savvy. So you've got most of the people are wiped out through whatever event, and then you're trying to build up your population, right? And if you're trying to rebuild a population, it's very hard to rebuild technology and other things that you recall or remember. And so those things sort of go to the wayside. And after decades of that, and the world just sort of starting to reclaim itself, right? Nature has a way of reclaiming everything. So after a while, it wouldn't take long. But it would take decades and centuries and millennia before you would be able to rebuild such a vast population, where now you can start thinking about less of survival in the wild and more about how to rebuild technology and stuff. And to them, it would feel like they're coming up with this stuff. They've invented this stuff. Right, someone would go, I've invented math.
Not to mention the stories that the old guys used to tell, and they'll become myths and legends
Yes.
instead of just stories. You know,
Like Star Wars was was it Dragon Age where they were telling the story of Star Wars?
in the game Dragon Age.
No, maybe not Dragon Age. The one with the dragons that with what's his face in it, Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, what's the name of
Well,
that? The
whatever
old
movie that one was, it wasn't Dragonheart. I don't think it was Dragonheart. Was
yeah,
it
they were
Dragonheart? I don't
retelling the
think it was
stuff.
Dragonheart.
No. It was,
But they were
somebody said it.
retelling Star Wars like it was the myth of times gone by.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, what's the name of that movie? Is hold on, let me look it up.
was it Dragonheart? No, that was a different movie
No, it
with
wasn't.
Dennis Quaid.
Matthew McConaughey dragon movie.
Reign of Fire. is a
Reign of Fire.
2002 movie
Reign of
directed
Fire.
by
There we are.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. I like that movie.
Yeah. And it would depend on the condition. Rain of Fire. Thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would the condition of the Earth afterwards, right? So it would take the Earth a little while for it to reset back to, like, because the Ice Age would have wiped out a bunch of people too. Although, I was always under the impression that the Ice Age was an all-encompassing event where the whole world was ice.
Nah,
But that's
it's like
not
the
the
northern
case.
hemisphere. I think it's just a northern
Yeah.
hemisphere.
I was not educated. Only
Yeah.
recently did I realize that. I was like,
Un-
did not know
Unfortunately,
that.
if it happened, I'd have to move all my stuff to below the equator.
I think we might be okay, depending on the scale, depending on where the map is, right?
Yeah,
If the
because, I
Earth
mean,
shifted,
yeah, if the Earth shifted, yeah, we'd be in trouble. A lot of stuff would happen. Crazy stuff. Hell, for all
Yeah,
we know,
but-
we could just be some weird alien experiment.
right? Like we could have been dumped on this Earth
They just
decades ago.
teach you
I say
chips.
decades, but it's millennia. What am I saying? I keep saying decades.
Just create this like organic life and see what happens. That's what we could be.
Yeah. Well, I would welcome a Beyond Thunderdome lifestyle.
Not really.
Give up paying taxes and instead fight for your life in the Thunderdome.
Drive cars really
yeah.
fast in the desert. And some guys trying to kill you with a chainsaw and stuff you into a moving wheel. Yeah, that sounds like
I would not.
fun.
I wouldn't last very long in the Thunderdome, to be fair.
No.
What's a bigger chance? Apocalypse caused by some outside event, or apocalypse self-inflicted? Self-inflicted for sure.
I don't like talking about that kind of stuff, but I think there's probably right now, I think there's a better chance of it happening from outside our world. So I don't think we're gonna see anything that drastic as we've seen wars in our past now, because everything's too infused with money. Like nations no longer, nations worry about borders as much as they worry about the finances that they're bringing in. I think it doesn't make economical sense to go to war now. Just little skirmishes here and there, I guess.
Yeah, the finger over the button is scary, but what could you do about it, right? You just at some point you got to be like, well, it's out of my control, so
It is out of our
I'm not going to put too much. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
I know that there was big fear of it back in the 80s, but even then it's like, what could you do anyway? You couldn't do anything. So
I mean, I think what gives me shivers more is like an article talking about a large asteroid found by NASA. The first thing that pops in my mind, is this going to hit us? That's the first thing that pops into my mind now, right? I'm not worried about like what governments are doing and stuff like that. That's what worries me more, I guess. I think about more. I don't know why. It's just something that I don't. I try to avoid those kind of articles when I see them, because it's the first thing that jumps in my mind is, are we going to get hit by a meteor? You know, I mean, some crazy thing like go ahead.
This is going to be on my headstone, I reckon. This is the best. This is the best quote. Out of my control, so I'm going to enjoy these tacos. Agreed.
I mean, like
Yeah.
that and that, like the thought of you remember the movie Night of the Comet? Do you remember that movie?
No.
It's like an '80s movie. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. As the young lady that starred in this movie, Last Starfighter,
Hmm.
I forget her name. So it's like the mid '80s. Everybody's celebrating Halley's Comet as it's coming by,
Mm-hmm.
and well, the Earth passes in its tail, right? That's why everybody was getting excited. Well, everybody, like the main character wakes up in the morning, and she spent the night in a movie theater in the projector room, right? And comes out and everything's quiet, like the city of Los Angeles is abandoned, and just weird like powder things on the ground and stuff like that, and then zombified people. Apparently,
Okay.
the comet has just brought an apocalypse to the world. And,
All
the
right, that's
government
cool.
knew
I'm
about
going to check it out.
Yeah, the government knew about it and didn't warn everybody, but hid people away to keep civilization going. But it's crazy.
They always
good
do
movie.
that.
It's a good movie.
All right, what's it
and
called?
It's tricky. The Night of the Comet. I think it's
The Night of the
yeah,
I'll check it
Night of
out. It sounds like be
Yeah,
right up
pretty
my
good
alley.
story. Yeah, and that freaks me out more than a nuclear war does.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be scarier because I mean that's out of your control too. But um, I think that factors more into the unknown, the scary unknown,
Yeah,
as
exactly.
opposed to that's different to a what if, right? Like a what if
Yeah,
this happened, and it's like, well, it could do. That's pretty scary. Or the unknown of the scariness of what's out there that we don't know. Like we know a
right.
nuclear holocaust could happen. We know that
Yeah,
these bombs exist. So it's like it's more of a is this going to happen or when is this going to happen? But the unknown, where like zombies or aliens or whatever, that's got an element of horror to it as well,
yeah.
where it's like out of this world sort of stuff. Oh, man, we got to do a horror one.
Or like Life Force. Have you seen that movie?
Maybe that one sounds more familiar.
Life Force. They find space aliens, space vampires, in the tail of Halley's Comet. He's the
No, I
hero
don't think I
in
have
it.
seen that. Okay,
And
all right.
they bring him back, and it basically turns London into a big zombie vampire fest. It's hilarious. It's good. It's a good
That
movie.
is crazy.
Yeah.
I like that they can explain where these things come from by saying it was in the comet. It was in the tail of a
I
comet.
mean, it was like a big event. I remember them talking about Halley's Comet when I was a kid. Like, oh, it only comes by like 170, like one time every 70 years comes by. So it's like like Mark Twain lived his whole life in between it coming by. Like he was
Right.
born right after it, and he died before he came by. But
Isn't that weird?
it's weird, right? So
Thanks
yeah,
for
so
thanks for
there's
catching up with this heroic nonsense. Thanks, buddy. And Ronnie, I don't know too much about Nostradamus's predictions. Only a few things here and there.
well,
Nothing comes to my memory though.
he said the world was going to end in the early '90s, no, '90s or late '80s,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
bees were going
Wasn't
to take
the
over the world.
remember when the Y2K bug was going to be the end of the world?
Yeah, that's people panic. People panic
Mm.
or like what's a computer going to do? It doesn't know 2000. It's just going to either reset itself or keep going. To the computer, it doesn't matter. It's just another number. I remember somebody was telling me that it's just another number. It's going to work. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but with time zones, right? I mean, we were before you, so I guess we would have been dumped into the
Is,
unknown before
Austra-
you.
is
Are
Australia
they still on the
Mad Max
grid?
yet? Are they Mad Max down there yet? Is everything falling apart? No, we're all right. We're good.
We're all good. Yeah, fear does equal control, and
Yeah, it does.
control also equals fear. So it
Yeah,
goes
it
both
does.
ways.
Yeah, control the narrative. You control the people.
To put a pin on Roswell, though, I 100% believe that this was a real autopsy, and I think it's still pretty well done, even though I know it is a fake. Um, I do think that the fire in the sky, I believe that story. Uh,
Hardcore.
That is hardcore, and I believe it to be true. It would be disappointing if it came out otherwise, but um, great movie anyway. Um, but these people have everything to lose and nothing to gain because they never get anything good out of it,
Yeah.
right? So at this point, imagine how many more people aren't saying anything
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because
there's a
of
lot of people that won't.
you would you'd keep it to yourself, or you wouldn't
I mean,
believe in it.
obviously, that's some of the reason why I think they put this false narrative out there is to keep people from saying stuff. So they don't want to be ridiculed, like they did with the not Air Force pilots, but like they did with the airline pilots. Like if they spotted a UFO, they'd be ridiculed. Some of them wouldn't
Yeah.
even say it because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Well, the fact that, and you mentioned this before, they had to change the terminology for it. But the Mayan calendar, I mean, they go, it stops here, so the world must end. It's like nothing goes on forever. Like they haven't put out calendars for next year yet. Modern calendars. It must be getting close though. But there,
Yeah, but I mean, like when I heard that conspiracy, the first thought that jumped in my mind was like, well, when did they make the last calendar? Obviously, I mean, their calendars must just reset, right? They just reset. There's people that sometimes they look, sometimes like with conspiracies, it's just the thought of having a conspiracy just to say that there's a conspiracy, right? There's always something there. It's sometimes
every generation has its own conspiracy. Kiwi's here. How
Right.
are you, buddy? Thank you.
But it's just weird. And for me, Roswell, I do believe that something happened. That's why I have this poster up, because I do believe. It's not just because I'm an
Mhm.
X-Files fan. I do believe. As for the autopsy behind you, I want to see the real one. Right? I want to see the real one.
Yeah.
I want to see what
You make
what they
you
think
make a
really happened.
good point, right? And I meant to mention this before, but you made an interesting point. Like if you had real footage, show the real footage. Don't waste
Exactly.
your time creating a fake, right? And the same goes to why make a fake prop if you have the real thing? Just have the real
Exactly.
thing.
Just show the real thing.
And
Exactly.
and some people just they do need it. But and I believe I am an open-minded skeptic, right? So I feel like there are things that go bump in the night. But if someone told me they saw a ghost, I might be like, did you though? Right? Even though I would want to believe that they did. But
Yeah, but I think all right. So if you came to me and you said, Gaz, I saw Bigfoot, or I saw a
Mhm.
ghost, right? Me as I would try to think of something that you may have seen
mm,
instead of what you saw, just to get it out of the way. And that's the skeptic
mm,
in me. It's like, did you see that, or did you see what you thought was a ghost? Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were tired. You have to sleep, or maybe certain bumps and you were in that mood. You just
right.
watched a scary movie.
Because
You know what I mean?
because it makes you feel safer to correlate
Yeah.
it with something that we know. And I wonder
Yeah.
how much we ignore. Like, could you watch a horror movie, right? And I'm going back to horror again. You watch a horror movie, and they hear a bump that goes in the night, and while you're watching the movie, you're like, "Don't go in there. Why wouldn't you just leave? Why wouldn't you pack up?" You know how many times I hear something do bump in the night in my house, and I don't do anything about it? It's the same
Well,
principle.
here's the thing with me, right? I hear something bump going tonight. I don't think nothing of it. If I'm watching
Mm.
something like a ghost story, it could be a documentary, something like that, right? Because I'd rather watch like a documentary on something horror than actually watch a horror movie, right? But
Right.
if for me, I have to like go out into the main house and turn some lights on. I can't have it
Right.
being
Yeah.
dark out
Yeah.
there because
Yeah.
I'll get freaked out. I'll freak myself out, and that's just the way it is. It's just the
Hmm.
way it is. Like, oh, is there somebody standing out there? I gotta turn the light on. You know what I mean? So I'll put the lights on because that's just the way I am, right? And not that I'm
Yeah. But there.
afraid. It's just that like my mind starts turning, and like do I believe in ghosts? Yeah, but I'm still a little skeptical about it. There's got a good reason that you might see something like that, but they could exist. You never know. You could be one standing outside my
So
room right now.
in my bedroom, there is something that's hanging off the wall that, when the lights are off, looks like the silhouette of a man. And I know that it's not. But every time I look over that area, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's spooky. And I
Yeah.
just don't want to look there. Yeah, R.I.P. to Sid Vicious. Yeah,
Oh, what happened to Sid Vicious? Did he pass away?
yeah, he passed away. Cancer battle.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that is bad. That is bad. But cancer is a hell of a thing. So they're no longer in pain, and hopefully moved on to a better existence that we will be skeptical about until we get proof, right? But rest in peace for sure. But yeah, Joe Fan's got it right here. So, like I said, we used to hear footsteps and talking at their house in Atlanta. Doors would open and shut. The toilet would flush by itself. But most things that go bump is my cat's going crazy, right?
Yeah, but they ain't flushing your toilet.
That's a well-trained cat.
Yeah, it's
GeForce
well-trained
Racing
cat.
saying, I do believe in ghosts. I do believe in ghosts. I do. I do. I do. I do believe in ghosts. I had an app where an old man. Wait. I had an
I think you had an
apartment. Sorry.
apartment.
Yep. I had an apartment where an old man died in the garage. Any pic in that apartment was blurred, even with digital cameras. I often felt a cold presence pass through my body.
It's weird. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
It. So I was
I'd
watching
have to
some.
experience it myself, but yeah, I mean, like that sounds like something realistic. That sounds like it could really happen.
I love the idea of ghost stories too, and the supernatural.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk supernatural till we're blue in the face. But I was watching some Red Dead Redemption 2 footage, and there was this one Easter egg where there's a ghost train that comes through, and my wife's like, "Why would there be a ghost of a train?" Right, which is a good point. Right, why would there be a ghost train?
Yeah.
But I think it's the energy around that's formed. Because there are back in there are ghost stories of things like that, like the headless horseman, ghost trains, ghost cars even.
Yeah.
And I think that's all just energy.
I have a funny thought that I'll share after you say this.
No, you go. That's pretty much
I've,
where I was going with it.
I've worked in the same place for just over 20 years, right? Same commute for 20 years, basically,
Hmm.
right? And I always kind of think to myself, when I pass away, if my soul's restless, if you believe in such a thing, that I'll probably be driving that route to work for the
Oh,
rest
that
of
would
eternity.
suck.
You're just
Yeah.
driving there. You're just gonna see this ghost car just drive right by you because they've driven the road so many times.
There's nothing worse than having a dream about being at work.
Oh man,
What a
what's
waste. What a
realistic? And you think
waste.
you're at work. Wait, it's so
Yeah, that's
realistic
even.
that you think you're at work and you wake up and you're like, "Oh crap, I gotta go to work."
Yeah.
I have
Why?
a
Yeah.
buddy of
Why?
mine. I was gonna say a buddy of mine. He's seen wild stories. It actually happened to him. He was sleeping. He'd just come off like a long shift. He used to work like long hours, and he was late for work. But he dreamt that he was at work. So when he was at work, he was telling his manager, like, I was getting this item. I was doing this. I was getting this. I can tell you the numbers.
Yeah.
It's like it's going to your license plate that I put the item into. It's like what? That's nuts when you dream it out. That means you just there at work too many times. You need to like take a vacation and get out of there.
Imagine your rest time being overtaken by um, being at work. They just passed a law here in Australia, actually. I don't know if you guys have it already, but there's a law that's been passed where you legally can't be bothered outside of your working hours. Like you are not expected now to answer emails or phone calls outside
Yeah.
of your regular working hours, because if you're not getting paid for 24 hours, then don't be available for 24 hours. I think that's great. That is perfect.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a law here that does that. But I remember during the pandemic, I got furloughed from my job, right? So I was still employed there, but I wasn't being paid because they shut down, right?
Mm,
They shut down except for a skeleton crew, and they made me take my laptop home so that I can keep tabs about what was going on at work, in case when they lifted the furlough or whatnot, just to
mm.
keep tabs on the company emails from the CEOs and stuff like that to let you know what's happening at work and when we're expected to go back. And I got while I was at home, I got an email from a work colleague asking me if I could do something in the system, and I was like, I can't. I'm not being paid. I'm not supposed to do anything. And they were like,
Yeah,
well, can
yeah,
I
yeah.
log in as you and can I log in and do it like you then? You know, I know how to do it, but I don't have the permissions. I'm like, well, wouldn't that be the same as me working because it's going to show me logging into work?
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You can't do that. Damn it.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, I don't think there's a law here, but I know that like basically, you know, you got to have that rest period between shifts, between your work shifts anyway. So you usually don't bother you. Even though like on my phone, I have my supervisor's phone number in case I have to call out of work or whatever, you know, stuff
Right.
like
I mean,
that.
there are certain things that would be constituted as okay, right? So, I think one of those like GeForce Racing saying they're on 24-hour call, and I feel your pain on the no overtime for salary. Actually,
That's true too.
I've actually just gotten a my new job now is I actually thankfully get paid overtime even though I'm on
Oh,
salary.
nice.
I've never been in a position where I get overtime and on salary, but I've been for a long time. I was a salary employee that was expected
Yeah.
to do a certain amount of hours unpaid, so over my
Yeah.
allotted hours.
I was salary for a long time, and I used to put in like extra hours and never got paid for it. I was told like, oh, if you work this many hours, you know, if you have like 40 hours plus
Mm,
at the end of the week, you don't have to come to work on Friday. So when that actually happened, they're like, well, I'm not coming to work tomorrow. I'm not coming in tomorrow because I've already worked my hours. Oh, we need you here. You can't.
yeah,
We'll give it to
exactly.
you some other
Yeah,
time. It's like, and then some other time never became any time, you know, and you're just
that's
being
right.
taken advantage of. You know, that kind of
Just
sucks.
just
And
pay me.
it's like here like it feels like they just want you to work. So you work,
Mm,
you live to work, and then like in Europe, where you know Germany, at least that's pretty much the only country I really know about. I'm not sure how England is, but you're there. It's basically you work to live. You know what I mean? Everything shuts down at a certain
mm,
time. People
yeah.
enjoy their life more. You know, work isn't like, you know, I'm not saying they base it around their schedules, but you know what I mean. It's not like you got to put in like 40 hours of overtime this week because we have to get this done. You know, it's like
Yeah, it is crazy.
totally
During the
ridiculous.
pandemic, the team that I was working with was scaled down. So
Yeah,
all the people that were working casual were getting less hours now, and they're like, we've got to work on the skeleton crew for a while until things start to build up. And then when things started to build up, they never brought it back because they realized that they could work this business on that minimum amount of people, that they never brought back the entire team.
yeah,
They just made people that were there work twice as hard. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Our work is before the pandemic. A lot of people in our customer service department were like, "Can we work from home a couple days of the week?" And they were like, "No, no, everybody has to be in the office. No, everybody has to be in the office." When the pandemic happened, and they started bringing people back, when they
Mm,
started bringing people back, like just work from home until we clear the office and we want to do it, and then it just became permanent. You're working from home. It's
yeah.
like before you didn't want it, but now you see now you see how it benefits you because you're not paying the phones, you're not paying internet access at work. Now they're working at home,
Yeah.
paying all that stuff, and you're paying them.
Well, I mean, imagine not having to commute every day.
I would I would
Um,
love it.
my previous job, and I can see some people in the chat will agree with this one. I can see your messages there, but um, I was getting calls so often after hours that when my phone, I had to change my ringtone because it used to be my favorite song. I was like, I can't have this as my ringtone anymore because I'm starting to hate this song. And it got to a point where I was like, oh, please let this be mum ringing me, right? Because mum used to ring me at all sorts of hours, and it'd be like, oh man, it's mum again, right? And then it got to the point where it was like, oh, please let it be mum, please let it be mum ringing me and not work. Yeah, it's crazy how things
Yeah,
change.
yeah. Now
Yeah, commuting
now
is
like
huge.
I started working like a 4 day work week, so a compressed work week, because of the fact that
Mm,
we were like, well, everybody else is working from home and we're coming in every day. What was that?
yeah, so for work from home days.
I don't get any work from home days right now, but looks like I might be getting a couple. So
Yeah,
Right now, I just work.
if you can, if there's an opportunity to work from home, then I think that's the best option. Because businesses, I mean, businesses are only usually really thinking about themselves, in which case they would be saving a lot of money not running an entire office.
Yeah,
Imagine
yeah,
how much they
very
could
true.
save.
I say
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
just work at 10. I was gonna say I just work a 10-hour work week, 10-hour work day now. I go for 10
10 hour
hours and work
work
a night.
day sounds, ugh, that sounds awful
It
too.
sounds bad. It sounds bad, but it actually isn't. The days just fly by. I just stay
So, do you
busy.
get a designated break as
I
well?
usually take one. Yeah. Well, we get like I still take a lunch, and they get like a bunch of like smaller breaks. I can
Hmm.
take like I can take all together at one time. I usually take like a late lunch, so like in the
Hmm.
evening, like 6 o'clock. Usually when I take a lunch.
So it helps to break up the 10 hours.
Yeah, it does. I don't mind it. It's it's only for 4 days. They get like three
Yeah,
days to
yeah,
just
yeah.
do nothing, so it's cool.
That's great. Having a 3 day weekend, that should be standard, I reckon. 3 day
If
weekends.
right, right. Well, if it was like Star Trek, we wouldn't have to work at all. We just work for the betterment of humankind.
No lunch
Just gonna
breaks
run a
is
bot.
bullshit. Right? How
Oh
cool would that
yeah.
be? But no, yeah, no lunch breaks is bogus. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to have like a reset. There was a time, and I recommend this. It may work for you. But there was a time where I was working so many hours and not being able to get a good break in, where I would literally just leave the building, like step outside and walk back in to make it feel like I'm just doing something different. You know, I'm now coming in again as opposed to being there for a large block of time. And sometimes
Yeah, I
that
used to.
helped me to reset
Hmm.
um, because it was just like I felt like I was within these walls for so long. I was like, I need to just step outside for a sec, come back in, and then get back to it.
I used to work two jobs. So I'd have my full time job and then I work a part time job. And I did that for like a little over 10 years.
Mm,
So I'd like I was like so it was like every other day I had to go to my other job so that I can work on the weekends. Right? So I can put like 8 hour shifts on the
mm,
weekends. So I work Monday through Friday every other day. So I think it was Tuesday and Thursday. I would sometimes it would fluctuate. Sometimes I would do like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, and
mm-hmm,
Thursday. I don't go in there for like a couple hours. So I'd commute to work in the morning. So I'd leave my house at like 8 to get to work for 9, work my 8 hours. Then I'd commute to the other job and stay there till at least 9, 10 o'clock at night and then drive home.
yeah, right.
Right. I did that for a while. And then on the weekends, I would do like an 8 hour shift on Saturday and Sunday. And Sundays used to be, and they had to do that because you needed to have a certain amount of hours to work on Sunday so you get time and a half. And that was,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
working overtime. So I would do that. And then usually on Sundays, I'd work the whole day. I'd go in, the
Mm,
store would open at like 11, and then I'd work to close. And then I'd go home. So I basically had no time to do anything. I'd just be like, oh, I'm just
yeah.
working. You know,
Well,
I don't know. And I did it for so long, so it just became habit. Like I didn't need to do it, but I was doing it anyway because it was just habit. And then I just realized one day I was like,
yeah.
I don't need to work both jobs, so I'm not going to. So I just quit. That's it.
There's no point in working yourself to death. Like money isn't the be all and end all. If you can get it, that's great. But you shouldn't sacrifice your life for it.
Right?
Um, Outback Steakhouse. Bloomin' Onions. They work for Outback Steakhouse 6 till 3. Go home, shower, eat, go to UPS for 4 to 11 for 4 years. That would have been a long 4 years, I reckon.
Yeah, that's a tough job too. Going from Outback Steakhouse to going to work at UPS. Well, I bet you're
I,
just loading trucks, right? Oh, that would have sucked.
yeah, maybe all the people who have seen UFOs were just tired and overworked. Maybe I definitely started to see things. So I used to do a day job and a night job back in my 20s when I could do it, and yeah, it gets too much. You got to have a life.
I remember switching my job. I used to work days, where you days it's like just after I got out of high school, probably a couple years after I started high school. They're like, "Oh, you want to work the night shift? It's more money." So it's like, all right, yeah. And then working the night shift, you miss out on everything. You know, you got to go into work on Friday night because you got to get ready
Yeah.
for the weekend, and all your buddies are going out on Friday night, and you got to leave to go to work. It's like, this sucks. I did it for like a half a year, and I said, I can't do this. I'm done.
Right. Yeah. It's not worth sacrificing your social
Yeah.
life either. Well, Gaz, let's call it. We're at the 2 hour mark. It's
Yep.
lunchtime here now, so this was a great hangout.
Always
Hopefully
fun,
we
buddy.
find Hans. Hopefully Hans
I
returns
know.
from
Hope
outer
he's okay.
space.
I hope he's all right.
Thanks to everyone in the chat for hanging out for as long as they have.
Yeah,
We're
thanks, guys.
hoping if we're back next week, we could do horror if you want. I want to.
All right, we can do horror. You can lead.
I
You
wanna.
can lead the discussion of horror. Slides.
Yeah. Oh, it's my turn for slides. When did this turn into a slideshow? Yeah, all right. If I have to do slides, the topic may change. We'll see.
Well, I gotta
But
do
yeah,
is just a couple of favorite horrors or whatever you like to talk about.
yeah. All right, that sounds good. I think the classic horror genre is behind us, and we've just got the jumps. We're in the jump scare era. But yeah, thanks everyone. We'll talk some horror next week. Maybe some more ghost stories, things that go bump in the night. And maybe we'll find Hans Chow again.
Hopefully he's okay.
Oh yeah,
I'm kind of
we'll
worried.
we'll put drop bears in that conversation too.
I want to know what a drop.
Oh
bear is.
yeah. Joe fan, as soon as I'm back in civilization, I will be sending you that Vegemite, buddy.
I hope
oh,
Hans
yes.
didn't get. I was gonna say, hope Hans didn't get kidnapped by the guys that got the guy from the Fire and Sky movie. Hope they didn't get him.
He'll come back with some
it's
wild
good.
stories, so.
Yeah.
Retro Ticket has a video premiering tonight, Aussie time. So check that out one time, won't you? In fact, I'll do the thing. I haven't done it at all today.
That's right.
But check out Retro Tinker.
Check it out one time, won't you?
Remember,
There's a
to
bit of a
keep
delay
your-
on that in for me.
Remember to keep your. Oh wait. Oh, where is he? Oh, damn it! It fell off. Hold on. Keep your foil. Oh shoot! It fell off again. Damn it! Keep your foil hats on, guys.
Stay safe out there.
They're out there, so stay safe.
All right, see you later.
It stays on Grimlock better.
Yeah,
guys
it looks
later.
good on him. Bye.